Statements are only offered for a limited purpose. That is, to show the state of mind of Katie McLean around the time of the alleged event in the relationship. You may only consider those statements, that is, to Ms. McLean's state of mind, only if you find that the defendant was aware of her state of mind. You may not consider the statements for the truth of what is asserted in those statements. Okay.
Thank you. So, Ms. Pettigrew, I'm going to ask you if you recall the content of these text messages in your communications with Ms. McLean. Do you recall that she indicated to you that she found in his cell phone a woman that he had an affair 14 years ago, Kate Kelly?
I remember the name Kate Kelly.
Okay. She was from New Hampshire, right? Yes?
Yes.
And do you remember that Kate McLean was very upset about the fact that she found that contact in Harry's phone? Talk to you about it. The two of you sent texts back and forth.
I remember conversations about the name Kate Kelly.
And the conversations basically were that Kate McLean was very upset about that, right?
As far as I knew, she was trying to figure out what was going on.
Right. And she told you that she found that by looking in his phone, right?
I don't recall that particular aspect of her looking in the phone.
Do you recall her further into the conversations indicating that she texted him, "I know because I have his phone"? Do you recall her telling you that?
I don't recall that specific text.
And Harry emailed an open position at St. E's along the same time for you to get that job, right? You recall that?
There was a job fair where multiple people could come.
All right. Do you recall that there was a
job
text?
fair.
Excuse me. Do you recall sending a text to her, 1723, indicating that Harry emailed you an open position at St. E's? Email. Yes or no? Do you recall it?
I recall the job fair.
What's a job fair? Other people help?
It's where anybody can come
Right.
and...
Do you have a problem with acknowledging that Harry actually emailed you an open position, information about an open position?
No, I just don't recall that specific email.
So that's the answer.
I remember the job fair that he
That's
forwarded
the answer,
me.
is you don't recall. It's easy.
Okay.
You don't recall. Do you recall that she was upset and texted you that Harry was going to lend a friend $200,000, and she was very upset about him depleting his assets?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you have text messages and oral conversations with her about how much money Harry had?
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, do you recall her indicating that he, not her, was a dating site addict and he needed the rush?
Objection.
Overruled.
I remember both of them talking about dating sites.
Okay. And do you recall her indicating that, in her opinion, he was a dating site addict and needed the rush?
I don't remember those terms, but they did talk about the dating sites. It often comes up in new relationships, whether or not to stop the dating sites or not.
Right, yeah, you've answered that.
Yeah.
Do you recall?
That's pretty common.
Okay, so let's do it this way. I ask a question, you answer, okay? Mm-hmm. Thank you. So do you recall indicating to her, I guess maybe I should work for Harry. You need a spy. Do you remember saying that to her?
Overruled.
Are you talking about a joke?
The other one that said it.
Are you talking about a joke? That was.
Do you remember saying it?
I remember a joke passed between Katie and I.
Uh-huh. And the joke was what? That you were going to be a spy for her?
I remember a joke like that, yes.
Okay. What did you mean?
It's just a joke.
Like what? I don't get the joke. What joke? What was the joke?
It's just a joke between friends.
Okay. And what was the joke?
That if you know where someone is and you were spending time with them, that you would, tell them what you saw.
Right. And she was very active on tracking websites as well, tracking his whereabouts. Isn't that right? That you knew about overall.
I think both of them did that.
Okay,
So,
look, the question is, were you aware of them discussing anything about tracking websites? Yes or no?
they tracked each other.
They track each other, okay.
Yes.
So you know that she actually recall sending her a text saying, you gotta get off that tracking thing? That you felt that it was interfering with their relationship?
I say that to parents that track their children all the time as well. There's a lot of helicopter parents out there.
So the question is, again, if you can focus, I apologize if I confused you. Mm-hmm. Do you recall any conversations about the tracking app that she was using, ruining their relationship?
As far as I know, they were both using it, and people
Can you
use
just
it for
answer
their
the
kids.
question?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you. Now, do you recall that she then, at the same time frame, moving up about a month or so, indicated that Dina friended him on Facebook and that he deleted the account? I went into his phone. Do you recall her saying anything like that to you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you know who Dina was?
I don't remember Dina. There was only so many I could keep track of.
So many what?
So many people that Harry knew.
Oh, how about the guys that she knew? How many guys did she know that you knew about?
Sustained.
Did you know she was on the dating websites?
Objection.
Overruled.
I think most people that go on dating websites
No,
date
no,
multiple
listen to the
people.
question. Do you know she, McLean, was on dating websites?
Both of them were on dating websites, so yes.
Do you know
Yes.
that she, thank you, she was on
Yes.
dating websites? And you know that she was receiving photographs of men, various stages of dress, on exercise equipment, beaches, things of that nature. You know that, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
That's the nature of online
Hey,
dating.
listen, just take a moment before you answer the question to see if there's an objection, okay? Thank you.
So, how about the dates that she went on? You remember the dentist from New Hampshire, right?
Objection, Your Honor. May we?
Well, they were.
Sustained.
May we approach?
Yes.
Moved in together. I've lost all my boards. Lisa?
They're up here.
Oh, they're up there? Okay. You would agree with me from the acknowledge that in November of 17, Harry and Kathleen McLean met online. It was November 17, right?
I believe so.
And in March of 18, Kathleen McLean and her 3 children moved into his home, right?
Yes.
You recall talking to her about her moving into Dover and using the word, "it's a good score." Do you recall that?
The sarcastic comment? Yes, that
Another joke?
sounds right.
Okay, so what did you mean by "it's a good score"? Congratulations, move to Dover.
I think when people get into a good relationship that they're happy with and they feel like they finally met the right person, which is how Katie felt, that's a good score. How she felt.
She felt, okay.
Yes.
And so the good score, somehow the town of Dover and the house and everything just kind of was on the periphery of that?
I don't know. I'm from Wellesley, so I don't really judge towns. There's all kinds of people in towns.
Okay. So she moves in March of 18, and you knew in December of 19 that he had consulted with a divorce lawyer because she told you, right?
Objection.
Sustain, rephrase it, please.
All right, we have in mind the close relationship that you guys had and texting on a constant basis. You'd agree with me that everything from shoes to skirts to makeup to blush to eyelashes, everything, you guys would talk about it in your texts, right?
We would talk about anything and everything.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. When you would talk about that, you also talked about kids, issues with the children, activities, things of that nature. You would share with
Yes.
them, right? Mm-hmm. And when Harry, less than 5 months after they got married, went to see a divorce lawyer, you were the first person she told, right?
I don't know if it was the first person, but she told me, yes.
Told you that, right?
Yes.
And what did she tell you? What was her state of mind when she told you that?
She was conflicted.
Okay, what does that mean?
She had feelings both ways.
It doesn't matter her feelings. He's the one that went to a divorce lawyer, right? First. 5 months later.
I don't recall the details of him going to the divorce lawyer.
You don't remember your friend telling you that he wanted to get a divorce?
They would have arguments all the time. Couples do. They talk about divorce, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it.
Okay, so if I ask you about that, when did they talk about and what did they talk about divorce? You wouldn't be able to tell me one thing because that is not true. Correct?
Objection.
I'm not sure. I feel like you're putting words in my mouth.
Excuse me, ma'am. When there's an objection, you don't answer, okay?
Okay, I'm sorry.
All right. So the objection is sustained. Please rephrase the question.
So, the end of January of 2020, you knew that he was going to get a divorce, right? You at least knew that.
I did not know for sure what his plans were. I had never spoken to him about it.
Things change.
Yes.
You knew he saw a divorce lawyer, right? She told you.
They talked about divorce a couple different ways.
Not they, please, focus. They, nothing. Her told you you got a divorce lawyer, right? That's all.
Yes.
And as a result of that, then she took action and got a divorce lawyer of her own, right?
Sure.
And then she went and got a restraining order against him and got him thrown out of his house, right?
That's not how I recall the timeline of events.
Well, it was February 3rd that she got the restraining order. It was the end of January that he saw the divorce lawyer, well before she saw him with him.
Can you restate your question?
Sure. February 3rd is when she got the restraining order throwing him out of his house. Okay? Yes?
Okay.
And it was the end of January 30th that he had the divorce lawyer send her a letter saying he wanted a divorce 5 months after they got married. You knew that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And it was February 3rd, after he got the divorce lawyer, that she went and got the restraining order to throw him out of his house, right?
Objection asked and answered.
No, overruled.
I'm over here.
I didn't know if you objected.
It was an objection, it was overruled, so you can answer the question.
Trying to be good, sorry. Yes,
All right.
yes,
So now, when he was out of the house, you knew that she stayed in the house, right?
yes,
With the 3 kids. And one of the questions the DA asked you was about the car, right?
yes.
And which car was it that she had?
She would use either one.
I know
She had the Jeep and she had the Mercedes.
Okay, and they were his cars, right?
Yes, I mean, she had 3 kids,
I
so
don't care about the 3 kids.
depending on how many kids she had to cart around.
Right.
Right.
His car, right?
I think once you're married, it doesn't become his and hers, but sure.
No, I guess not. Before they got married, he owned the Jeep, right?
Yes,
Before they got married, he owned the Mercedes, right?
yes.
Mercedes was over $150,000, right?
I don't know how much it costs.
He liked to drive the Mercedes, right?
I'm not sure. Is this relevant?
Who paid for the car while he was out? Again, I'm over here. Who paid for the car when he was out down in Florida during the pandemic? Who paid for the car?
Staying.
Do you recall, moving on, now it's after the restraining order was issued and Harry was out of the house, around February 2020, having conversation about him being out of the house, but he wanted to live in the basement. Do you recall that conversation?
Yes, I do.
And he basically just asked if he could please move back in the house and stay in the basement, at least, because of concerns with the pandemic, right?
Yep, I remember that.
And she said no, right?
I don't know if the restraining order had been lifted. I don't think that was allowed, but they did talk about it.
Right. But as far as her agreement or not agreement, you know from a text that she sent you at that time frame that we talked about, that she said no, LOL. She wouldn't let him move into the basement. It's his house.
I think there was an issue about how they were communicating and getting along at the time, and there needed to be a barrier, and that's what she felt.
How would they communicate? They weren't communicating and getting along at the time. He was out of the house in Florida, and she's living in his house with the 3 kids.
So why would he move in the basement then? I don't
Because he had nowhere to live. He's living in a trailer.
Objection.
Sustained. Next
But if they
question.
weren't talking,
Sustained.
why would he move in?
Ma'am.
It's
Yes.
confusing me, sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Reddington.
Around March into April of 2020, you knew that she knew that he was going back to Germany.
Yes, I knew he was taking a trip to Germany.
And in fact, that he was going to Germany and he had a job there. She knew that, right?
I don't know if he had a job there, but there was a job he was exploring in Germany, yes.
Okay, and she knew that he wanted to go back to Germany for good, right?
It was an option that he was trying to figure out, yes. As far as I know, he had an option in Florida as well.
And then, but he didn't want to stay with her. He wanted to leave. He wanted to get divorced. He wanted to go back to Germany, not go to Florida with her or anything, right?
That was not my understanding.
Sorry, ma'am. Just, you need to wait a second before you answer the question.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. You don't have to be sorry. Just wait a second to see if there's an objection to the question. So the objection is sustained. Next question.
In March of 2020, you would have your husband, Vincent, is it?
Yes.
And Vincent can speak German, right?
He can speak 4 languages.
So that's wonderful. Is the answer yes, he can speak German?
One of the languages he can speak is German.
Yes. And she, on a number of occasions, would ask you to have Vincent interpret German messages that she received, or he received from Germany, thinking that they were women, right?
I don't think it was that. It was just a language barrier, and to be able to translate would be helpful.
In March, at the end of March of 2020, do you recall her texting you, he's talking to a woman from Germany early, can you please have Vincent look at it?
If you don't understand a language, the normal thing is to translate it, so that's what she asked him to do, yes.
Do you recall her at the same time frame, moving from March into April, that she determined from looking at his phone, he's on Twitter, on the phone, texting like cheating in my face? Do you recall her saying that to you?
I don't recall that specific one, but I do recall that there were conversations about cheating.
Involving both of them, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
You remember when they, back when they got married, you remember they went to Las Vegas?
Yes.
You remember that it was a, what do you call it, a conference? I think like a international conference or something. I think it was on aging.
I believe Harry was going to a conference and Katie went along.
Okay. And he was speaking at this conference on whatever the topic was, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it was when they were in Las Vegas that they got married, right?
Yes.
And that was, you know, everybody was pretty happy about that for a period of time, right?
Of course.
And then she texted you that within 3 weeks that he kicked her out again, go look for a house, is what she told you. Remember that?
I remember that they weren't getting along and there was an option that she would have to look for another home.
Well, it wasn't an option because back before May of 2020, it was his home, right?
Objection.
No, overall.
You knew he owned the home, right?
Well, she put money into the home too. So
Like what?
she put money from her home sale into the home, and she also helped build the garden in the back.
She didn't put a nickel into that home.
That's
ma'am.
not my understanding.
Well, it may not be your understanding, but she didn't put a nickel into your home.
That's not my understanding.
Ma'am, you need
So, sorry.
to disregard that last answer, jurors.
You recall that she told you, moving forward again to with the wedding, that she was excited that she got married and there was no pre-up, is what she told you. Prenup, I'm sorry, not a pre-up, prenup. I mean, you remember that, right?
Yes.
Okay. And she was happy about that, right?
I think most women are happy when there's not a prenup.
And why is that?
I think it just means that you're in love.
You're in love.
Yeah, I believe in love. And so did Katie.
And you recall having a conversation with her in April of 2020, where you were telling her, I think you're referring to the music thing with the surgery, a story about him going to a little boy to talk him into having kidney surgery. You teared up telling her about that, right?
Objection.
Sustained.
Do you recall that she indicated again at that same time frame that she texted you that she was determined to move home to Germany? He was determined to move home to Germany. Remember that?
I think that was one of the options for him. I think he had others as well. So it's
Okay, so
the
I'm
way you're
asking
asking
about the
question.
text, ma'am, not what you think other options were, might have been, could have been, should have been. She was upset and told you that he was determined to move, and I quote, determined to move home to Germany, is the text she sent you. Do you remember that?
I do.
All right. Do you recall, furthering on that topic, that she then texted you that he had a job offer in Germany and was going to Germany?
I do remember that conversation.
Okay. All right. You said that she had a beautiful, cute little house in Sudbury, right?
Yes,
And you'd agree with me that that ultimately went up for sale, right?
it did.
You'd agree with me that it was in foreclosure, right?
I do not have that information. I know she was renting it while she was living in Dover.
Okay. Do you recall that in fact she described the house to you as shitty, and that actually the basement was flooded right when she was trying to sell it?
I don't believe that certain homes are shitty and certain homes are not, but that might be a conversation someone has when they're frustrated, which I can understand. There was a water, like French drain in the basement. That might have been what she was referring to. So I do recall that conversation.
Would you agree with me that there were a plethora of texts from Katie McLean to you talking about having a drink, I'm having a drink, I'm feeling tipsy, I'm trashed, I'm hammered, I'm hungover. You asked, has your drinking been okay? Do you recall that?
Objection.
Sustain.
Do you recall her indicating that she had, and she texted you, and this would be right around the same time that they were supposedly reconciling, that she had a new app to track his location? Do you recall her telling you that?
I do not recall.
Do you recall her indicating, wow, Dr. Tuerk apparently can perform surgery from Home Depot? Do you recall that one? It's kind of funny.
Sustain.
Did she ever tell you that she used the the tracking app, his location? You gotta wait till she objects.
Objection.
Okay, overruled. She can answer that.
Okay, you can answer.
I answered this already. They both had tracking apps, so yes, both of them had tracking apps.
Okay. But you don't recall her indicating that he was at Home Depot on one occasion? No?
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Moving up again, right to when they were at the hotel and allegedly reconciling, everything was great, that she was texting you, and I quote, I looked through Harry's cell last night. You recall her telling you that?
Yes.
Do you recall her texting you and saying, I'm so happy I have Vanessa to look at the phone? That'd be you, Vanessa, right?
I don't recall that one.
Do you recall her right before the May alleged reconciliation that she texted you for help to find out who is this Stephanie bitch? It's his type, fake blonde, fake tits. Do you recall her texting you that?
Sustain.
I do not recall.
Sustained.
Okay.
You recall while they were ostensibly reconciling that she indicated to you that she was still going out on dates with the dentist from New Hampshire.
Objection.
Overruled.
When they were separated?
Do you recall the dentist from New Hampshire?
Yes, I don't recall the timeline you're speaking
Okay, so the answer is yes,
Yes.
right? His name was Michael, right?
Yes.
Okay. And in May of 2020, she told you in a text that she went out on a date with the dentist again, right?
Objection.
Overruled.
Yes?
Yes, they were separated. So.
Yes, the answer is yes, right?
Yes.
I know you want to say they were separated, but you knew that she went on a date in May of 20 with the dentist Michael from New Hampshire.
Okay.
Okay. And again, towards the very end of that time frame, she indicated to you that he intended, again, talking about he had the job. Now it's not possibly. He had the job in Germany, and he will be leaving. She told you that, right? She was upset.
Well, yes, it also wasn't the amount of money that he would like. So
Oh, so it wasn't enough money?
that was for him to decide. He was still
Right, but
deciding.
she knew how much it was, though, right?
Objection.
It wasn't it wasn't.
Sustained. Sustained. Next question.
Do you remember her indicating or asking, and again at the time frame at the end of April, beginning of May, can you see if he's back on Instagram and start printing them out? Do you recall her asking for your help for that?
Yes.
Okay. Do you recall that one of the text messages that going back to February 2019, on February 20th of 2019, that you sent a text to Harry, and he was asking you about why Katie was having... You're objecting.
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, can I see it, sidebar?
Yes.
Now, when you spoke to the police after you went to the house on was it May 20th? May 15th, I'm sorry. You knew at that point that Harry had signed a deed transferring his house over to her and him jointly, right?
Yes.
And she told you that, right?
Yes.
And she was pretty excited about that, right?
Objection.
Was part of his
One
will,
second.
so it made
Wait,
sense
wait,
to me.
You need to wait, ma'am, until there's an objection, so just wait to answer. Rephrase the question. Sustained.
So you knew that, or she had told you that he transferred or put her on the deed to the house, right?
Yeah,
correct?
it made sense to me because
So the answer is
that was
yes?
part of his will.
It was what?
Yes.
It was his will? Okay. And when you were speaking with the police, this popcorn that you made reference to, when did that come about, that you were going to have that code with Kurt?
We were nervous.
Sorry?
We were nervous about,
Not asking about you being nervous, I said when. It's a W word, when.
okay,
When was it?
so we were trying to figure out when they were reconciling it.
When was it that you decided to use this popcorn word?
Before Harry moved back into the house.
When? November.
So that would be around April.
Okay. It was really just a week before you talked to the police that you decided to use this popcorn. You told the police about popcorn a week before, just a week.
Okay.
Is that right?
I don't know. I'd have to check.
So when you were speaking to Lieutenant or Detective Kwiatkowski, and pursuant to this investigation on Friday, May 15th, the police spoke to you, okay? I can show you the report if you want it. It's got coffee all over it, but I can show it to you if you want it.
Okay.
And that they interviewed you about your relationship with Katie McLean, right?
Right.
Remember that? And you've had a chance to review your statement to the police, right? It's only 2 pages. Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And you indicated to them that this past week you created the code word popcorn. So that would have been, you know, like May 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, something like that, right?
I would have to check the time from
So
the text.
do you want me to show you where you told the police it was this past week? Have in mind you were speaking to them on May 15th? I can show you where it says that.
I agree. We came up with popcorn before Harry moved in, yes.
Right, you told the police when your memory was a lot fresher than it is today.
It was 5 years
later.
ago. Yeah.
Right, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That in fact, it was this past week that you created the code word popcorn.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead,
I have nothing further. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. Please be careful. There is a ledge there.
Thank you.
Be careful.
Thank you.